Darren Till versus Logan Paul. What's going on? Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez, and also KSI and Mayweather versus Salt Papi and Manny Pacquiao. Crazy news. I'm going to go through all of it in today's MMA news reaction video, where a lot of the news is actually boxing news that does involve some MMA fighters. Let's start straight away with that. Darren Till is apparently going to be taking on Logan Paul. Those are the rumors. Darren Till put up an Instagram story about it. Logan Paul says that he has a boxing opponent lined up for him. Next, Darren Till recently asked to be released from his UFC contract and then hinted at the idea of maybe taking a boxing matchup by immediately putting out a tweet afterwards saying that he was going to be boxing for the money. So he's clearly got a big payday in the boxing world. Logan Paul has been a fan of the UFC. He knows about UFC fighters. He was really calling out Paddy Pimblett. And here's another scouser for him in Darren Till. And yeah, Darren Till reposted on his story talking about the fight with Logan Paul. Rumors going around about it. One of Darren Till's friends was saying, shout out to my friend Darren for getting the bag in the boxing world and stuff like that, saying that he's going to earn a whole bunch of money from it. It's looking like they're going to be doing Darren Till versus Logan Paul, because even Dillon Danis said when Logan Paul, the clip came out about Logan Paul confirming his next opponent, which was bleeped out, by the way. Dillon Danis even came out and said, this dude ducked me to go and fight a 1-5 Darren Till in his last 6 fights or whatever. So it's all pointing towards Logan Paul versus Darren Till. So here's the sad part about this. The good part about this is that Darren Till is going to be getting paid if this fight does go ahead. He's surely going to be getting a solid amount of money for this. He'll probably put a lot of effort into promote it as well. He's got a good chance of winning. In fact, I do believe he will win this matchup against Logan Paul, because one thing you got to consider is that Logan Paul, I believe he's like 6'2" or something along those lines. Darren Till's not going to be too much smaller than him. So I feel like, you know, we've only seen Logan Paul against, 5'10" KSI, pretty small dude, and at the time he didn't have much training. Of course, he's much better now, though. And Floyd Mayweather's a very small dude. I know it was Floyd Mayweather, but that fight didn't seem entirely serious as a contest. This is going to be someone pretty much a little bit smaller, but Logan Paul's size. So that's going to be an issue. And Darren Till, he's not terrible at striking like a Ben Askren for a Jake Paul matchup. So I don't mind Darren Till winning this one. But if he loses, his career is over. Because no other one of these YouTube influencer boxers is going to want to take him on if he gets smoked by Logan Paul somehow. And who knows, maybe Logan Paul has been training behind the scenes this entire time, knowing that he's going to jump right back in there at some point against a guy in Darren Till, who self-admittedly doesn't have an ACL right now and needs to get surgery on his knees and needs to heal up a bunch of injuries that he has, but isn't doing that because guess what? The Logan Paul fight come up out of nowhere. So, do I think Darren Till would win? Yes. Am I worried if he loses that his career is undoubtedly over? Also yes. Because if he does lose this fight to Logan Paul, which he might end up doing, I might end up picking Logan Paul, to be honest with you, because MMA fighters can't box. They simply cannot box. However, the examples that we've seen have been at a massive size discrepancy against their opponent. Darren Till's not going to be too far off Logan Paul, as I said. So he could just use that distance control and fire off straight left hands all night. But in a boxing ring, that stuff gets real predictable. That stuff gets real predictable. I don't like any of this for Darren Till, I'll be honest with you. Sure, he's going to make a solid amount of money. Probably $1 million flat to fight Logan Paul if this does go ahead. If it does go ahead, $1 million flat, good for him. If he loses, his career's over. The UFC's never going to sign him back after losing to Logan Paul. That makes zero sense. He also said he was leaving the UFC due to injuries, and now he's lied to them pretty much and taken a boxing fight now that they've let him out of his contract. So that's not going to be good for their business relationship whatsoever either. And also, he's taken his attention away from rebuilding himself as an MMA fighter. Because whenever this fight happens, he's going to be training boxing the entire time and not focusing on his takedown defense and not focusing on his grappling. And if he ends up winning, sure, it could be a fun storyline for Darren Till to enter this influencer boxing scene, and maybe we get a Mike Perry matchup at some point. I'm all for it, but we'll never see him in MMA again. as soon as he starts making this influencer money, and let's say beats Logan Paul, and then starts looking for another name on the influencer scene that he can beat, which he probably would if he can get past Logan Paul, we won't be seeing much of him coming back to the UFC. So I'm really confused about the direction of Darren Till's career. Of course, the money might be too much for him to pass up, and that could be a thing, and he might be really confident in himself that he will destroy Logan Paul in a fight, but the downside to this is so low, and the upside is, well done, you beat Logan Paul and got a whole bunch of money, which is good, but it ain't good for his MMA career, regardless of how good it is for his financial situation. So that's an interesting story that just came out. I'll settle on a prediction of Darren Till, but would not be surprised if Logan Paul were to somehow win. He's on the source, way more athletic than Darren Till, and big dude, been doing it for a bit now. Who knows how much training he's been doing behind the scenes. And Darren Till only throws straight left hands, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, interesting story just popped up out of nowhere. We move on to another story that came out, which is Alexander Volkanovski. This was a day ago. Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez is being discussed for International Fight Week, UFC Fight Night, UFC 290 on the 8th of July, International Fight Week. If they can get Jones versus Stipe in the main event, nothing's competing with the UFC in July. You got the pound-for-pound number 1 and the pound-for-pound number 2, both defending their belts. Heavyweight for Jones against the heavyweight goat of the UFC, Stipe Miocic. Alexander Volkanovski against a dangerous contender in Yair Rodriguez after his last performance against Islam Makhachev. I mean, this is going to be a huge, huge card in July. I just wonder what they're going to do for June, because when there's so many good cards in July and May and April, June's Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana as a main event, and that's never okay. All right? So hopefully July is going to be a great card. Let's talk about Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. I guess Yair got cleared medically for something. Maybe they thought he got concussed in his fight against, what's it called, Josh Emmett. Maybe he had a minor concussion and he got cleared by a doctor, and now he can fight sooner, because I know he had a 6-month suspension, and he was talking about fighting in September on the Mexico card. So we'll see how it goes for him. But yeah, UFC 290, allegedly Volkanovski versus Rodriguez on the card. I'm going to go with Alexander Volkanovski. I think people make the mistake in Yair's career of trying to take him down too early. I think that's a massive mistake. I think Volkanovski 100% has the skill level on the feet and the toughness to last with Yair on the feet, if not beat him at his own game on the feet, for the first 2 rounds of the fight. And once they get into those 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds, and Yair's thrown a bunch of kicks and head kicks and body kicks and jump knees that have been smothered by Volk, and, you know, maybe knocked down Volk but couldn't quite put him away, because let's be real, Yair doesn't have the best of finishing potential with strikes, and Volk might be tough enough to grit through some of those situations, as we've seen with him before, even with submissions. So for Yair Rodriguez, he's got to finish Volk early, I think. Otherwise, we're going to see Volk eventually, as the fight goes on, pushing Yair up against a cage, getting an inside trip, taking him down and starting to beat him up on the ground, because this was a dude that was on top of Makhachev in round 5, beating him up, and no doubt has been working on his grappling like a savage over the past training camp. I definitely think it's going to be something that he's going to bring into this training camp against Yair Rodriguez. So I see this being like a round 4 TKO stoppage for Alexander Volkanovski via ground and pound. But this is a massive one. This is absolutely massive as a fight. I don't know when the Mexico card's going to be. I kind of hope it's in June. Maybe they could immediately run back Shevchenko versus Grasso on that card. Also do Brandon Moreno in the main event versus Alejandro Pantoja. And sort of the hype behind that card would be because of the fact it's in Mexico. But we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. I just love this matchup. Volkanovski, Rodriguez. Rodriguez is such a dangerous test for him. I could see a world where Volk does get in trouble in this fight, you know, like no one's immune and invincible, and you could see a world where Yair Rodriguez catches him with a head kick or a flying knee. Look how good he looked against Max Holloway in his fight before the Josh Emmett one, and look how good he looked against Josh Emmett as well. I just think Volk wins as the fight goes on, and I don't see Yair finishing him in the first 2 rounds. We move on to another bit of news, which is Tresean Gore versus Bo Nickel. Let me discuss this first before I get into the next one. I think this is dangerous for Bo Nickel because Tresean Gore is a physical specimen. He can counter grapple-ish. I will be picking Bo Nickel to win this one, but I'm still not sold on him, man. Jamie Pickett stuffed those takedowns early on, and he had to get a groin shot to get the takedown on Jamie Pickett. So I like the fact that he's keeping the ball rolling and he's getting momentum, because any months of training for Bo Nickel at this point is going to be massive to improving his skill level, because he's only been a part of the game of MMA for a very short amount of time. So that'd be good to see. I do think he'd beat Tresean Gore. We saw Tresean Gore get taken down by Brian Battle, and even Cody Brundage took him down in moments. I think Bo Nickel will capitalize on those moments and work his jiu-jitsu. He's great at taking the back. I can see him getting a choke in the first round, but dangerous. And if he shoots into a guillotine, he's going to have some big problems. And if he stays on the feet and can't get it down for whatever reason, without a groin shot at least, there's going to be some big problems there for him as well. So we move on to another situation, which is, and I wanted to discuss this at the end of the video, I might not even put it in the title, but KSI and Floyd Mayweather versus Salt Papi and Manny Pacquiao is in the works as a tag team boxing match. This is crazy. I love this. I'll be honest, I absolutely love this. I know people are going to be angry at it because it's absolutely ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is so stupid. How does this make any sense? What a disgrace to boxing. It's going to be fun. And we're going to see in installments of this fight that's going on in the boxing world in a tag team boxing match. I've watched a tag team boxing match before on Misfits with Pineda and some other guy. I can't even remember the names. And Ice Poseidon was on the other side. All that type of shit. And he got messed up badly. But I remember like the vibe in the arena when they were switching out and tagging each other out and all the fresh matchups were getting made. It's a really good vibe in the arena. So there's a world where they start off with KSI versus Salt Papi in the first round. Both guys doing good. And we get that hype behind that matchup for all the YouTube fans. And then one by one, we get Papi steps out. Manny Pacquiao steps in there against KSI. Starts beating up KSI. KSI tags in Floyd Mayweather to get back in there with Manny Pacquiao. And then Manny Pacquiao taps out for Salt Papi, who steps in there with Floyd Mayweather. There's just so many interchanging matchups that can come from these tag team fights. And the aura in the arena, no doubt, is going to be really fun to witness. So I think this is cool. They need to treat it for the circus that it is. Don't try and make it too serious. Just know that this is a big money-making machine. And it will make a whole bunch of money. And Floyd Mayweather's last one against that Chalmers guy didn't make much money whatsoever. So he's clearly in the business to get in there with some of these big names again. And this is amazing. Plus, for Salt Papi, boxing fan that's picked up boxing from the Philippines, must be great for him to have his idol, no doubt, and hero, Manny Pacquiao, also from the Philippines, getting in a boxing ring with him. So I'm sure it's going to be a great experience for Salt Papi and Manny Pacquiao. I think their team would win. Just going to be honest, I think their team would win this one. I think Salt Papi's better than KSI at boxing. And I think Manny Pacquiao and Salt Papi are going to take this more serious. Just my opinion. I think Floyd's going to be relaxed about it. And I doubt we'll see KSI and Floyd training together in the build-up. I think they're just both going to show up on the night and do their thing and abide by the rules. Wouldn't even be surprised if Floyd makes it all about him and doesn't even tag KSI in for the entire thing and just tries to win it on his own. But I can definitely see Salt Papi and Manny Pacquiao training together in the build-up and like really taking it seriously as like a team. So I think that'll be a big advantage for him. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Fucking Darren Till fighting Logan Paul. Would you believe it? We'll see if that goes through. I don't even know how to feel about it. But if he fights Logan Paul and it goes through, safe to say the MMA career is pretty much done. See you later.